First of all, we are here with Gerhard Mayer. Gerhard works at IGPP here in Freiburg, Germany, and I have the pleasure to share this time with him during this visit at the Institute.
Pleasure to have you here. So I'm really happy to meet you in person. So it's great.
Okay. Regarding your background in psychology and your experiences in the field of research, you have been researching in parapsychology, how would you define belief?
Yeah, that's not necessarily an easy question, but I think a belief is an assumption about the world or the ontological nature of the world that is not totally based on facts, but on conviction, how the world is working in specific aspects. So the main point is that it's not sure, it's not based on facts, but on assumptions about the ontological nature, I think, yeah.
Great. And what do you think about the study of beliefs? Do you consider the study of beliefs relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. They are relevant because beliefs are the basis of many areas in the public, in society, and they are the basis of even of science, although science often say, yeah, we are neutral, we are free from beliefs or so, from this kind of assumption, but that is not the case. And politics are based on beliefs, so there are a lot of beliefs that are also necessary to deal with the world, to deal with things that cannot be foreseen. So you have to have some beliefs that leads you to create hypotheses, and then it can happen that the one or the other belief has to be changed. It comes out that it is a wrong belief, but often beliefs are very persistent and they are important for for the society, for the whole, how it is dealt with different aspects of reality in society, also in politics, for example.
And do you think your beliefs have directed you towards psychology, your field of study, or your career in any way?
Yes, I mean, I started not as or my plan after finishing high school was not to study psychology or to become a scientist, but I was more directed towards arts, and I made an education as a wood sculptor, and then I came across astrology, and that was a very interesting experience for me. I was very skeptical towards astrology, and then I found out there must be something that is very interesting, and then I decided to study, and I was not sure what to study. I was between anthropology or psychology, and then I thought, okay, I'm interested in astrology, and that is not a discipline at the university, but what is very close to it is psychology, and mainly, for example, Jungian approaches to depth psychology or analytical psychology. And insofar, yes, beliefs or assumptions directed me towards the study of psychology, and finally also to my working place here at the IGPP, because I wanted to make my dissertation on a topic of astrology. That was finally not the case. I choose another topic, but it brought me to the IGPP.
There are many types of beliefs. Some are widely accepted by various groups. Others may be more heterodox, more bizarre. And people report experiences related to paranormal beliefs, for instance. In this way, have you ever had an experience that points to or recalls or are related to beliefs of this kind?
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned astrology, and this is certainly not a belief that is totally widespread in at least not in Germany. So we have here a very secularized society, and so the official beliefs are characterized by relation to mainstream science, where everything that is paranormal or in a way animalistic or heterodox is not accepted. So insofar, this is the first thing I encountered, so to say, with regard to animalistics, that astrology functions in a way, although it's not 100% clear what's the background, why it works. I mean, there are many hypotheses, and I also wrote a paper about that. But so that was the first thing, and since I'm working here at the IGPP, I encounter many things, also people who experienced interesting things, paranormal phenomena. I also observed somebody bending spoons, and I even made tests with him so that he was not able to manipulate the spoon. So these are impressive experiences to me that convinced me that our mainstream worldview of scientific worldview is not complete enough. So there are phenomena that are not covered by this mainstream
That are
scientific
not fully
worldview.
explained
Yeah.
or understood.
So, yeah. And this is what I the more I deal with these topics, the more I experience this, or I share experiences with other people who report, so to say, very bizarre experiences from the perspective of mainstream, but I have to take them seriously because there is no reason to take them not seriously. So yeah, it's really an interesting part of my work here at the IGPP.
And you have mentioned about your interest, your personal interest, that fired you, that led you to study in a scientific way, and move that moved yourself, to pushed you in the direction of studying or looking for ways to study it scientifically. So you have mentioned about astrology, and you have mentioned about bending spoons as well. And if you think about the explanations and the understandings, how would you explain? Do you have any possible explanation or somehow a framework that you have developed to help you to understand not only bending spoons or astrology, but also other anomalous experiences you got in touch, that you came across?
I mean, this is a difficult question. So I'm not a person who needs a thorough explanation or a thorough model to accept phenomena. So I'm a person who can stand ambiguities. So, but we obviously have here at the IGPP some models to understand this that are based on quantum theory and on entangled situation that are, according to this model, a basis of such kind of psi phenomena. That's quite a good model to explain a lot of things, and it's very pragmatically, it can be used very pragmatically to help people who experience this kind of phenomena and are suffering from it. But and there are other models I also like. For example, the first side model by Jim Carpenter, who is the model says that everybody always has extrasensory perception or performs psychokinesis in a way, and so, but it's on a subconscious level, so that we don't notice it. Only in very exceptional cases we notice that we have our telepathic information or perceptions and so forth. So that's another model I like a lot. So and I also think I make experiences that support this model. And the problem is that these two models I like, they are in a way contradictory.
Okay.
So, but I have no problems to accept both of them, and there is perhaps even a third and a fourth. I don't know so far, and so I can stand these tensions, to have different models to explain phenomena, and so my main position is that I think that we are far away from knowing the nature of reality at all. I also think that physics is not close to an end. So, at the end of the 19th century, the physicists thought they would be shortly before the end of their models, and they were able to explain almost everything.
They would have a definite explanation for everything.
And so there are only small little fields that are unexplained, but it's only a question of time. So, and then the great stroke with Einstein came that shaked the whole system, so to say, and showed, okay, that was not the end. We have now a totally new field to explore, and now we are almost in a similar situation that physicists, many, not all of course, many say, okay, now with our relativity theory and quantum theory, we got it. So there are still some things we cannot explain, but basically yes. So, and I think there can be another strike, so to say, and open a totally new field, perhaps with the integration of other layers or dimensions of reality. So, and in so far, yes, I'm very open, and I am somebody who is not so much oriented towards theories. I mean, they are interesting, but I'm really more oriented to the empirical world. So if I see some phenomenon and I think, oh, this does not fit to that model, so that is interesting to me. So something that challenges models and not so much that supports models. So that I think that's a personal, individual characteristics. If you are rather looking for the order or for the elements that are disturbing orders and hints toward something that is still unexplained. So in general, I mean, if we investigate, for example, poltergeist cases, the cases that can be explained might be very interesting, but often the more interesting cases are the ones that cannot be explained. So where you have to say, okay, there seems to actually to be something paranormal going on. So, and so far I'm rather interested in this kind of phenomena, or that, perceptions that challenge existing models and direct the mind into the unknown, so to say. Yeah.
You have mentioned as well about your personal interest going back to astrology, and that because of your interest to astrology, you directed yourself and got in touch with ways of explanatory models and attempts to explain, and this drove you to research. In this way, you mentioned a personal involvement with astrology that led you to your career. But in other areas of your life, has your involvement with astrology or other experiences of this kind had an impact on your life?
Yeah, I mean, astrology was at the beginning when I came here, and it at that time it characterizes my approach to life very much, because it provided a model, a psychological model that is much more differentiated, and in my conviction also more sophisticated than all psychological models I learned about during my study of psychology. So it helped me a lot to understand other people, and I would say even if it's only nothing else than a human construction, it's still helpful because it gives you a very differentiated perspective on human beings. So insofar it has much more than only impact on my professional life. But I have also to say that I had a period where I got more distant from astrology, not because I don't take it more not serious enough anymore, but other things came into the foreground, and so I mean, what still is interesting to me outside my professional life, I'm interested in other cultures, and also how they deal with reality, and how they, for example, if a culture is the belief in spirits is part of their everyday life, more or less, then that is interesting to me. It shows me how relative our own Western perspective on the world and on nature is, and that you can have a total different ontology, and that is really fascinating to me, not only from my professional perspective but also in my private life. So it helps me also to be more tolerant, yeah, towards other perspectives on the world, to other cultures, and so. And that is important to me.
Now moving to your professional practice and your experiences in your professional practice with your colleagues and your co-workers as well. Has anyone ever reported any such experience, anomalous experience, or I mean, your colleagues? Do they talk about this openly? If any one of them have reported, do they share it?
Yes, they share it. I mean, the colleagues are also different. One is more open than the other. And even here at the IGPP, where every of my colleagues is basically open to this kind of experiences, or rather how they are interpreted differs, so to say. But everybody would share this his experiences yeah, and but there is, my colleagues are different, so there are ones that are more even keen to make extraordinary experiences, and other not so much so, and so I'm attracted to the ones who are keen to make these experiences. So yeah, and there are, I mean, even the first case of spoon bending I experienced with a colleague, not from the IGPP, but he's now professor, and he showed me this. He asked me, "Do you know spoon bending?" Yeah, I know about it, but I never experienced it. Oh, I can tell you it works. I don't know how, but it works. So, and then he demonstrated it, and so that was really impressive. And I still have the bended spoon, so I got it. So yeah, and I mean this is for me an interesting part, also to hear the experiences of other persons, not only to experience it myself.
And could you mention any experience that you have heard about one peer of yours that catched you, that somehow intrigued you?
Yeah, I mean, the experiences that are most common, I would say, are synchronistic events. So you experience things, you are saying, "Oh, this cannot be by accident." So there are meaningful coincidences that I would say that happen all the time, and everybody you ask, he can tell you from his or her own experience. So, but yeah, I know sort of telepathic connections to close friends or so, and these are things that are, it's perhaps not hard evidence so that it would convince a skeptic, but I mean, evidence cannot be hard enough to convince a skeptic at all. So, but these are partly, very convincing experiences on a telepathic level. I mean, spoon bending is sort of psychokinesis. I also experienced bursting bulbs or something like that. You never know if it's by accident or is it actually a kinetic phenomena that occurred through a tension that was in the room at that very moment, such kind of things. And then there were also, we did some field investigations, analyzing a photograph that was taken. I mean, that is something that happened not at the time of our examination, of our investigation, but that was also interesting to talk with the people who were at the time at the place where the photograph was shot, and to check, oh, what did it to these people, how are they discussing it, and to find a conventional explanation for this extra in the photo. It was a weird part of a face that was in the armpit of a depicted person on photograph. So, and we are not able to find a plausible conventional explanation. But the interesting part is also that when I asked one of them a half a year later, then they started to diminish, the effect that it had on their life. So it seems that if something is really weird, it's not easy to deal with it on the long run, and so there is the possibility the esoterics, they will remember it and oh, this is that, this and that, or the more skeptical persons or persons that are not who are not interested in paranormal phenomena for them it's too eerie, and so they had to normalize it, so to say, and they had somehow a drawer in her mindset where these kind of weird experiences are buried, and then the drawer is closed and they don't have to deal with it anymore. So that is, yeah, I'm not 100% sure if I answer your question, but
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Now, moving to more technicalities about the field of research. Various terms are employed by the community in the literature. We find paranormal experiences, anomalous experiences, unusual, exceptional, transpersonal, spiritual, psychical, and so on. Could you comment on the differences in the use of these terms by the peers, by the literature, and which you consider to be the most appropriate and why?
Oh, yeah.
I know that's a complex question, but I think that's important to discuss this because you don't have you don't have any formalization or discussion currently about that.
The problem is that almost all of these terms are theory laden, and as long as we cannot really explain every of these phenomenon, then it's hard to find a term that is neutral enough, so to say. I mean, what you the word psi was invented exactly for this purpose, to give a neutral word for sort of experiences or phenomena we cannot explain so far. And insofar, I mean, what we are using is anomalous, or what I prefer is anomalous phenomena are also paranormal phenomena. So if I say supernatural, then I define what is natural and what is not natural, and so a psi phenomena is very likely very natural. So if I would say supernatural, then maybe I put it in an area where it does not belong, or we don't know it at least. So as long as we not know exactly what's the nature of a phenomenon is, we cannot say it's unnatural or natural or whatever. So insofar, anomalous is insofar better that it only says it's outside the models we have. We don't understand it. So the paranormal is somehow similar. So it is beside the normal. It's better, paranormal is better than parapsychological, because with parapsychological you have the discipline of psychology included, and that would mean that these phenomena are all linked to the psyche, and we don't know exactly if that is the case. I mean, many phenomena might be linked to the psyche, but perhaps not all. So paranormal is a more broad term, and then you have to distinguish between phenomena and experiences and perceptions. And so perception and experiences is very close. Phenomena is more broad again, more generalizing. And if we have the terms extraordinary experiences or exceptional experiences, for me they are synonymous. So anomalous experiences is for me also almost synonymous to the other one. The problem is if you have the term exceptional or extraordinary experiences, that does not necessarily mean an experience related to the paranormal or the anomalous. So, for example, if you jump from a bridge, bungee jumping, that might be called an extraordinary experience because it's not something that is ordinary and only a few people are doing it, and it stands out of the everyday experience. So this is a problem, you know. And on the other hand, if we leave our Western perspective, then something that for us is anomalous or that is extraordinary, that might not be the same for a person, for example, of Southeast Asia, where the belief in spirits of, for example, of ancestors is absolutely common. So the spirits are part of their everyday life. So it's not anomalous basically, but it has nevertheless a special quality if you have this kind of experience. So we are really in a difficult area. So I don't think that there is any term that hits totally the nail on the head. So you always have a little bit to explain what you're referring to if you use such a term. Yeah, so.
And considering the beliefs, some researchers prefer one term or another. Do you think the choice, the way they choose and the way they employ the terms has something to do with the researcher's personal beliefs? Or do you think it's more a methodological or scientific question? Or my question is, what underlies their scientific choices or even methodological could be their personal beliefs?
That could be the case, but I would say in many cases it is more going along with the convention. You know, if you write a paper and then you have to share it with other researchers, or it is peer reviewed and the peer reviewers have to accept it, and then you will choose your terms that they can easily be shared with other researchers from whom you do not know how their beliefs are. So if I would have for myself a spiritist belief system, then I would normally use the more easily the term supernatural, because my belief or spiritual, but because I don't know what the beliefs of the peer reviewers will be, I will perhaps avoid this term so that I do not run the risk that he rejects the paper only because of the wrong use of terms. So, and I would choose more a neutral or a more generally accepted term among the community, scientific community. So
now, regarding students and people that are interested in the field, or people that want to do research, to do their masters or PhD or their monographies and final works for the undergraduation, would you give any recommendation for them, any advice?
yeah, so that's also a difficult question, because really depends a little bit where you are and what your plans for your career are. So if you only want to make a master thesis in the field of parapsychology, but then make a conventional career, that is generally difficult. So in this case, I would recommend to frame the topic of the thesis in a way that it's not 100% clear for every reader that it deals with this kind of phenomena. And even that is dependent on the culture where you are living, and so that's the one point. The other is if somebody actually wants to make a career in parapsychology or in this area, then I only can say first, take care. This is a decision that will destroy every possibility to make career in another field. So you must be clear what that means. So very likely you will not be able to easily make career in another field if you decide to make a career in parapsychology. And that also means that the possibilities are limited in this field because there is not very much funding and it's difficult to get this kind of research funded, at least at the very moment, maybe for many years in the future too, because I don't know if there will be a situation where this kind of research will be accepted by the mainstream. So we are working toward this possibility by doing solid research, according to mainstream methodology and quality criteria. But still, it's difficult. So if somebody wants to do this, then he has to be more or less burning for these topics, knowing, okay, this is my thing, I will do this, and I know about the risk for my career, and I know that I very likely will not get the Nobel Prize for on this path. So, and I know that I will be criticized by mainstream colleagues all the time. I know that I have to defend myself all the time to doing this kind of research. And if all these points are clear to me, and I'm still convinced this is my way, then it will be something very interesting, maybe a field of research that is much, much more exciting, stimulating, interesting than almost any other field of research. So that is, that is what I would recommend. And then, of course, reading, informing oneself what exists on literature, because there is very interesting historical literature, and often people have the idea they have to invent the wheel anew, and I'm entering the field of parapsychology, and I show everybody how we have to deal with. So that usually doesn't work. So there is extremely much interesting work done in the past, and often it's not well received because it's published in journals that are not very spread, and so that would be also a recommendation to look what is already done and get stimulated by this, and then looking forward, look for new ways, new perspective. And society also changed. So I mean, in the general public, the acceptance of these topics is much, much bigger, and the experiences are widespread. If you go to a party and they ask you what you are doing professionally, and you say, okay, I'm doing in this area research, parapsychology or whatever, and then, oh yeah, that's interesting. And then all the accounts come from personal experiences. So the acceptance in the public is much, much greater than in the mainstream scientific community. So far it's very interesting, but one have to be aware of the risk for one's own career and so on.
Great. And we are approaching the end now. We're coming to the end. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about you would like to share, to approach?
Oh, not much. I mean, I only can express my gratitude to be at a place like the IGPP in Freiburg, where we have such a freedom of research and are not depending on, on the wishes for a certain outcome from funders or so. So we have a freedom of research here that is really great, and we have a multidisciplinary environment, and that is also important, that we have exchange with researchers from other disciplines. I'm a psychologist, but mainly oriented to cultural approaches, to cultural studies, and also with a tendency to anthropological approaches, or also of religion approaches, sociological approaches. But I'm in touch with experimental psychologists and physicists and so, and that is really interesting to have this kind of exchange with other disciplines. And I think in this field of parapsychology, or also animalistic psychology, or investigating animalistic phenomena, it's important to be open, to be not limited by one discipline, and that this kind of looking on a phenomena from different disciplinary perspectives, that is a fruitful way to perhaps to solve some riddles, or of this all these kind of, in a way, mysterious phenomena. And that is also given at this IGPP. Insofar, I was at the right time at the right place. So that is, it was a piece of luck I have in my biography, so to say.
Yes, I totally agree. This is a very special place, and to have the opportunity to be free to do your work, and to know that you will have a salary for it, to have your time paid to do research, and not depend on the next funding or the next scholarship or another work to create time and space in your agenda to do research. I think this is amazing, and the structure you have here is ideal, I think, for
Totally agree.
most of the groups. Although I've been hearing here at IGPP that the budget is limited and it's not possible to do big researches and to increase the ideas and the efforts to make them reality. But at the same time, on the other hand, to have the soil, this ground, is a unique space and opportunity.
I would say that's the case, actually.
And I'm very I'm very glad and thankful for this moment, for these days, and for your courage, your openness to participate, to share a little about your views, your understanding, experiences. That's enriching for me, and I hope that will be enriching for others that might watch this video as well. So many thanks, Gehrard, and
I'm happy to
looking
share.
forward for the next.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.